What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. It is definitely that time of year. It's time we start looking at some of these college prospects, especially in this Dynasty space. As you guys know, we love the Dynasty fantasy football content. So today what we are doing is a 2024 two-round rookie mock draft for you guys with landing spots. And I'm doing it with Caleb. Caleb is a guest of the channel. You guys are probably familiar with Caleb. And so we're going to bring Caleb in here. Caleb, how you doing, man?
Hey, doing good. It's Dynasty season. My terrible Dynasty teams are looking to do well, so super excited for that. And yeah, let's get into it.
And so like I said, Caleb, this is a two-round rookie mock draft. This is with landing spots. They are from a Sports Illustrated mock draft that Luke Easterling did. It was a 3-round mock draft, so we pulled those landing spots. We used them, and this is our version of our first 1.0 2024 rookie mock. So I think without wasting any more time, Caleb, do you just want to hop into this draft?
Let's hop in.
All right, man. So for me, again, let's just preface, this is a Superflex tight end premium PPR format. And I think without anything else, we need to just say it's going to be Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams was drafted in this mock draft as the 101. He went first round, first pick to the Chicago Bears. And I think with this pick here, man, there's not really much that we need to talk about Caleb Williams as a prospect, but this does seem like it is clearly a move on from Justin Fields. My guess is that would also come with a move on from Matt Eberflus. They move on to a new head coach, most likely. Hopefully it'll be an offensive head coach. And to me, super flex mock drafts, this is probably the locked and loaded 101. I've heard the argument for Marvin Harrison. I know he is a generational wide receiver. We talk about him all the time, but I think this would be a great landing spot for Caleb Williams. Hopefully the head coaching change is there. Like I said, an offensive minded guy, and he gets DJ Moore and Cole Kmet as his wide receiver 1 and tight end 1. And I think for me, it's just the locked and loaded number 1 pick in my super flex drafts.
No, you really can't go wrong with Caleb Williams at all. I think there's a lot of debate between the 101 and the 102 who you should be taking. And since you were so kind to give me the 102, I'm actually going in a different direction here. I am the Ohio State Buckeye fan, but I will be taking Drake Maye here at the 102. The thing with playing in Superflex, I think when we look at what happened last year with Bijan Robinson being drafted at 101 overall, yes, he was going in startups right around like the 110 to 112 term. But if we look at where he's going right now, he honestly has had a really good rookie year, but he's only going kind of in the middle of the second. For me with Drake Maye, the thing is landing with the Patriots in this mock, it's not great, but still in a Superflex league, he will be going in that back half of the first, early second round. And I think even if he does have an okay rookie season, he'll maintain that value compared to if something happens with Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm a little bit worried about where he might be in a year from now. So for me, I will be standing with Drake Maye here at the 102 in a Superflex league.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to it, right? It's positional value. You're drafting for the quarterback. I probably would have went a different direction, and I think with that being said, I would have taken Marvin Harrison, who I'm going to be taking at the 103. He does get picked with the second overall pick in the NFL draft. He goes to the Arizona Cardinals, and to me, man, I kind of talked about how he's a generational wide receiver. You're going to hear people throw that generational term. It's probably accurate. Like we use that term a lot for a lot of these prospects at times, but Marvin Harrison, he's one of those ones that's like very, very, very elite. It's like the Julio Jones level of wide receiver that's coming out of college. And to me, he lands with the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft. He gets to play with what it seems to be Kyler Murray, because Kyler Murray does not get replaced in this mock draft at all. So you assume they're going with Kyler the rest of the way. And Marvin Harrison and Kyler Murray, that would be a fantastic stack for fantasy football. It's hard to think that Marvin Harrison wouldn't be considered probably a top 5, if not even higher, dynasty wide receiver if he lands here. Plug him into an offense with Hollywood Brown, Trey McBride, and maybe, James Conner or maybe a rookie running back later in this draft. Who knows? But that offense would be fantastic for fantasy football. And Marvin Harrison, I think he's a locked and loaded top 2, top 3 pick.
As a Buckeye fan, it pained me to pass on him, but you hit on all the points on why he is going to be a top 5 dynasty wide receiver the moment he gets drafted, even if it is with Arizona Cardinals. Super great. So me over here at the 104, I will be going with Malik Nabers. And I think the thing with Malik Nabers is at this point in the season, I honestly, as a Buckeye fan, think Malik Nabers deserves to win the Blitnikoff Award. Honestly, 1B to Marvin Harrison's 1A. And you could arguably debate Malik Nabers should be going over Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison's a little bit more flashy, but the stats that Malik's putting up, breaking all of Jamar Chase's records for LSU, like granted, I know he's getting the ball thrown to him by Jayden Daniels and anything like that, but I absolutely love some Malik Nabers. And I think if you're sitting here at the 104, you maybe feel like you missed out on those big 3 targets and your tank, your rebuild might be sidetracked. Do not worry. Malik will come in and save you. And especially with this landing spot where he lands on the Bengals in this mock draft, being able to probably replace T. Higgins, I guess that's probably the assumption here, being the wide receiver 2 in this Bengals offense with Joe Burrow, with Jamar Chase. Absolutely love this spot for Malik Nabers and glad to grab him here at the 104.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Malik Nabers, like you said, probably a Biletnikoff winner here. It's remained to be seen, but I think Malik Nabers is elite by all means. And again, we keep using that elite word, but I think we've talked about 4 guys that are all considered elite. Now that we've kind of gotten out of that elite category, I think there is a very clear top 4. I am going to stick with that LSU theme, and I'm going to be taking quarterback Jayden Daniels. He does land with the New York Giants in this mock draft. I know that the Giants have mentioned that they're going to stick with Daniel Jones, but in this mock draft, Jayden Daniels goes there with the 6th overall pick. Look, Daniels is a super athletic quarterback. He has went for almost 5,000 yards this year. That's going to be with 1,100 of those yards being rushing. You're going to pair him with Brian Daboll, who does get the credit at times for helping develop Josh Allen into this professional quarterback, being that elite quarterback that he is. And it's hard for me not to like the physical tools of Jayden Daniels. Obviously, you get him with that coaching. You hope it is the similar story with the Josh Allen stuff that I just talked about. And this is a guy who is probably going to win the Heisman Trophy. And again, top 6 draft capital, you put him in New York. I know there's not a lot of weapons, but I think Jayden Daniels has the tools to be fantasy relevant.
Absolutely love that pick, especially in the Superflex League. I think this is definitely the draft for quarterbacks. And so with that being said, at the 106, I will be going with JJ McCarthy out of the University of Michigan. Hate to say it, lands with the Raiders in this mock at pick 11 in the first round. And yes, are there some things that we would love to see JJ McCarthy improve? Yes. Do we feel like he's the best passer in this draft? No. Do we like his mobility? Yes. And so for me, getting that top 15 draft capital, knowing the potential that he has, if you watch that Ohio State Michigan game, yes, he only threw for 140 yards, but some of those throws were big time NFL throws where he's scrambling out of the pocket, looking downfield. I think those are the kind of traits that I would love to see JJ McCarthy continue to lean into. And I think when you're talking here at the 106, yes, you miss out on Caleb Williams, you miss out on Marvin Harrison Jr., but being able to get a guy with high upside like JJ McCarthy, especially if Jayden Daniels is currently off the board, I'm all in on JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, I mean, the draft capital in here was what you want to see. You want to see a guy get drafted that high, especially these quarterbacks. We know that the hit rates are higher when they're drafted that highly. And when I watch JJ McCarthy, I don't know why, I just see a lot of Jared Goff. And I think if you draft Jared Goff, sure, it's not the flashiest pick, sure, it's not the highest upside pick, but Jared Goff is a good quarterback at the NFL level, and I see a lot of that in JJ McCarthy. So with that being said, I will be picking here at the 107. Again, keep in mind this is a tight end premium, and with that being said, I'm going Brock Bowers. He gets drafted with the 10th overall pick to the Tennessee Titans in this mock draft, and that is top 10 draft capital for a tight end. Now, keep in mind, we all remember how hyped the community was for Kyle Pitts back in 2020 when he was drafted by the Atlanta Falcons. I would be on record saying that Brock Bowers is a better prospect than Kyle Pitts. I think he is just more filled out as a prospect, and I think Brock Bowers is going to be very, very, very good at the next level. Dare I say elite, like I've been saying before, but in this mock draft, he goes to the Tennessee Titans. I don't love the landing spot as far as how flashy it is. Obviously, that means that they're going to be rolling with Will Levis for another year. I still don't know how I feel about Will Levis at the NFL level yet, but it is going to be a wide receiver room or just a receiving room in general where Brock Bowers is going to probably fall into that number one target. He's going to be there with a 32-year-old DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins also has an out in his contract here in 2024, so it's still to be seen if DeAndre Hopkins is even on this team. Now, keep that in mind. He's also going to be playing alongside Treylon Burks, who has been fairly disappointing at the NFL level. So with Brock Bowers, the talent that he is, the draft capital that he has, I think he would be stepping into this spot and he would be their number one receiving target right away. And in a tight end premium, that is going to be worth its weight in gold. Brock Bowers, he's going to be my pick here at the 107.
Absolutely love that pick with Brock Bowers. And I think this is kind of where I saw a teardrop for me. But at the 108 here, I will be going with Rome Odunze out of the University of Washington. He got picked by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, round 1, pick 7. You gave me a softball. You could have let me pick one of these Ohio State wide receivers left on the board. I said no, I'm going with Rome. And the thing is with Rome, he reminds me a lot of a bigger Chris Olave. Smooth is the word that you define, in and out of routes. And especially if he were to land top 10 draft capital, but also just land on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where Mike Evans is probably going to be on a different team when come next season. Chris Godwin, there's a chance that he's also off the team this next season too. So Rome could be stepping into this wide receiver 1 territory as a top 10 draft pick in the NFL draft. And so for me, give me that at the 108, which is absolutely insane that you can kind of get that value in this year's class.
Yeah, I mean, this class is very deep, especially at the wide receiver position. And you kind of already talked about the other Ohio State guys, and that's who I take here. I take Emeka Egbuka at the 109. He got picked round 1, pick 24. He goes to the Houston Texans. And look, it seems like a lot of people have kind of fallen out of love with the idea of Emeka Egbuka. And I think that's partially because obviously he played with a downgraded quarterback this year, Kyle McCord. I'm sure you could speak to that a ton. Additionally, he does have an injury this year, which does limit him in playing in some of these games. So I think there was a time last year where I talked about Egbuka potentially pushing for the wide receiver 2 in this class. I still think he has the talent to do that. I want to dive more into the film this offseason, kind of establish those rankings for myself. But think of what Emeka Egbuka did in 2022 when he had CJ Stroud as his quarterback. They're going to reunite him here with Stroud at the NFL level. Again, he goes to the Houston Texans, and this first round draft capital, you put him back with the talent of CJ Stroud. Stroud. And I know you just talked about Chris Olave, but I really think that the ceiling for Egbuka would be having rookie season Chris Olave numbers, maybe even rookie season Garrett Wilson type of season for Egbuka if he does reunite with CJ Stroud here at the next level.
Love it. Here at the next pick at the 110, I will be taking Bo Nix out of Oregon. Gets drafted round 1, pick 19 to the Atlanta Falcons. And yes, Bo Nix seemingly stayed in college forever. And so you might be saying, why are you drafting an older quarterback at the back end of the first? My thing is, he lands with the Atlanta Falcons, and as much as we love these weapons, all we've been saying about Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London is get them a quarterback. And I think Bo Nix is instantly the QB1 in Atlanta, better than Desmond Ridder, better than potentially any other option that they have. And so super excited about that. He's super mobile. I think a lot of his stats this year, even though I know he's in the Heisman contention, it's just because he's playing in the Oregon offense. So I think take that with a grain of salt. But I think if he were to get this round 1 draft capital, you have to take him here in the back end of the first in the Superflex league, especially when you know that he does have the weapons to succeed in Atlanta.
Absolutely. All right. So here with my next pick at the 111, I'm going to be going Keon Coleman, wide receiver out of Florida State, and he lands with the Buffalo Bills. Round 1, pick 16 draft capital for Keon Coleman here in this one. And what that tells me is they have decided to move on from Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis, he is a unrestricted free agent here in 2024. They add Keon Coleman, field stretcher, big, physical, athletic. He has all of these tools. He's a little bit more raw than some of these other receivers we've talked about. He's going to need to kind of develop some of those route running tools at the next level, but he is a very, very high upside wide receiver. You pair him with a quarterback like Josh Allen who has a big arm. I think you're going to see a lot of Keon Coleman and Josh Allen highlights because the big arm and the big play after the catch ability of Keon Coleman is just going to be a highlight reel. Now you do put him next to a guy like Stephon Diggs. They could complement each other very well. I think he would be a good red zone threat in this offense. And when it's all said and done, like I said, it's going to be a lot of highlight plays. I don't know what the ceiling would be for Keon Coleman, but I'm taking the shot on the upside here at the back of the first round.
Like that pick a lot. And at the 112 here, I will be going with Troy Franklin, who got selected in the second round, pick 54 to the Indianapolis Colts. And when I think of Troy Franklin, I think of Lightning McQueen. I am speed. And looking at the way that these wide receivers have been developed in this room by Reggie Wayne, when we're talking Michael Pittman Jr., when we're talking Alec Pierce, even what we've seen from Josh Downs as a rookie, I think Troy Franklin could definitely step into this Indianapolis Colts offense with Anthony Richardson coming back off of injury and just be absolutely dominant. So being able to get that here at the 112, especially if that 112 is you as a contender, getting the upside of Troy Franklin, I think that's a great pick to have.
I totally agree. And keeping it going at the 201, now we're in the second round. I'm taking TreVeyon Henderson. Try to leave you a Buckeye, but you made me take him. He goes to the Green Bay Packers, round 3, pick 79 draft capital. And I think this pick here is a little bit more projection than it is immediate production for TreVeyon Henderson. I mean, you look at some of these things here, right? Aaron Jones, he's going to be 30 years old. The Packers can save $12 million if they were to move on from him post June 1st cut or trade. You also got to think about what A.J. Dillon is. A.J. Dillon, he's scheduled to become an unrestricted free agent later this summer. So there is a chance that TreVeyon Henderson could fall into this Green Bay Packers offense, maybe be the running back 2, worst case scenario. If not, he could be the running back 1 day 1. And if you drafted TreVeyon Henderson, he has these fresh legs. You're going to put him in an offense with Jordan Love, who has made this offense ascend over the last couple of weeks. We've seen Jordan Love. He's been impressive. This Green Bay offense has been good. Put TreVeyon Henderson in here. It's kind of what we're looking for when we look at these running backs. We want guys who are going to fall into opportunity, guys who can be in good offenses, and I think this is a good chance for TreVeyon Henderson to do that. So the upside was just a little bit too good for me to pass on, especially in a class where I think the running back position is a little bit iffy. It's a little bit iffy, so I want to take the good shots at the running backs when I have them.
I feel like even at the 201 with TreVeyon Henderson, I think even if he gets second round, third round draft capital, I think we could even see him get pushed down the board lower just because of how deep this class is at every other position. And on that case, at the 202, I will be taking Michael Penix Jr. out of Washington, goes to Tampa Bay in the second round, pick 42. And the note that I had is it just seems, you're a little bit allergic to the quarterback position at this point. You're letting me take all the quarterbacks. And I think it's super flex when you get a guy like Michael Penix, who in this Tampa Bay, if he were to fall to Tampa Bay in the second round, is throwing to Rome earlier in this mock draft. And of course, no Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin. But at this point, who like Baker Mayfield, Kyle Trask, see ya. It's the Michael Penix show. They're going to be bad, so they're going to have to throw the ball a ton. And I know he's an older prospect. I know, yes, he's been in NCAA, played for Indiana as a freshman, sophomore, transfers to Washington. Like, I understand all of that. But I still think being able to get a quarterback like this who is in the Heisman contention, who's going to be playing for a national championship, think he's going to be playing for national, but he's in the playoffs. I still like Michael Penix Jr. here at the 202. And so, yeah, go get your quarterback, stack high on quarterbacks in this class.
Yeah, and you know what? In my defense, though, I just don't like the hit rates for second-round quarterbacks. That's why I didn't go Michael Penix. The draft capital tells me a little bit of a story in itself. That's why I steered clear. I did go TreVeyon, but I would say I wouldn't have let him fall too much further than where he was at right here. So with that being said, I am on the clock here at the 203. I'm going to be taking Xavier Worthy, and he goes to the Dallas Cowboys in here, round 2 draft capital, pick 57. And I think it's worth noting that Xavier Worthy is a very quick, very shifty wide receiver. He's coming out of Texas, obviously, has had some very good seasons at the University of Texas as well. However, 2023 was his worst season as a college professional. I do think that that has to do with some of the talent that was added alongside of him. But when you look at what he posted this year, he had his lowest touchdown total, his lowest target share percentages of his college career. I don't want to talk about the negative too much, but I do think that it should have been brought up. You put him in this offense for the Dallas Cowboys. Gallup has a potential out in 2024. I don't know if they decide to exercise that and move on from him, but it is a possibility. You also have to note that Brandon Cooks is going to be 31 years old in 2024, so he's kind of getting towards that back half of his career, at least for his fantasy football production. So this is going to be a situation where I think Xavier Worthy falls into it. Maybe he's kind of similar to this Jackson Smith and Jigba situation that we've seen this year, where he falls behind a really good young guy, a good vet, and he's kind of sitting in the wings waiting for his chance. I think that's what could happen with Xavier Worthy, and even though it may not be the best opportunity for him to get touches day one, it could be a chance where the talent will prevail, especially in year 2 if they do move on from a Brandon Cooks or a Michael Gallup.
Absolutely love that pick for you. Texan staying in Texas. Then I at the 204, I will be going with Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU, gets drafted to the Carolina Panthers in this mock, round 2, pick 33. And this is the thing we got to call Brian Thomas. We just got to call him Mr. Touchdown. 60 catches, over 1,000 yards, 15 touchdowns. My man instantly steps into the wide receiver 2 spot in this Carolina Panthers offense. I know Adam Thielen, he only signed a 1-year deal, so I assume they probably re-sign Adam Thielen if he wants to play another year. I know he's getting up there in age. Potential that he wants to go to a contender and or retire. And we've all seen the Jonathan Mingo catch, and we've seen the Jonathan Mingo struggles. And I know Terrence Marshall also is on that roster, and a lot of people will say, well, Brian Thomas reminds me exactly of Terrence Marshall. And it's like, I understand. They go to the same team, same comparison, but for me, call him Mr. Touchdown. Sign me up at the 204, getting a second-round wide receiver drafted to a team that desperately needs some wide receiver help.
Definitely needs wide receiver help. Definitely needs to get some weapons there for Bryce Young, see what they have in that quarterback. But with that being said, I'm here on the clock, 205. I'm going to be going Trey Benson, running back out of Florida State. He goes to the Arizona Cardinals, round 3 draft capital again. So this is day 2, pick 79. And I think that Trey Benson, he is a type of running back that does have 3-down back potential. And with that being said, James Conner, he's going to be going into his 29-year-old season. He does have an out in his contract in 2024. I don't know if they end up exercising that, like I kind of have said in the past, but it would save the team about $5.5 million. So let's say maybe they even decide to roll out Conner for another year. I do think that I would be more than happy to have Trey Benson as my running back. You take him here with that day 2 draft capital. You put him in that offense, kind of like I've already talked about with Marvin Harrison Jr. And I kind of alluded to this pick. You put him with Hollywood Brown, Trey McBride, Kyler Murray, and obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. And Trey Benson could have an opportunity to score a lot of touchdowns. And maybe it's not year 1, but it would definitely be year 2. But there is a chance that he could fall into that production year 1 if they do decide to move on from Conner.
Yeah, I like that Trey Benson pick. Like this whole map, what's happening with Arizona Cardinals, what they're doing with these weapons around Kyler Murray. And at the 206, I will be going with Lad McConkey out of Georgia, round 2, pick 62 to the Kansas City Chiefs. And typical me, just talking about a white receiver in this dynasty community, comparing him to Cooper Kupp. This is for me. When I watch him play, I think I compare him a little bit more to Hunter Renfrow. And if you watched this last week in the SEC championship game, when Lad went out with his injury, it changed the whole Georgia offense because Lad just has the ability to get open. And when we look at this Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver room, what do we say? Nobody can get open. And Patrick Mahomes is struggling. And so I assume Kansas City's will probably go out, get a free agent. But still, I think Lad, as a second round wide receiver drafted to the Kansas City Chiefs the last 2 years, it hasn't necessarily picked. Rashee Rice starting to break out a little bit, but Sky Moore didn't pan out. So you always get a little bit worried. You're like, does Kansas City actually know what they're doing? But I feel like Lad is a different type of receiver than they've drafted and or I've tried to add to this team around Patrick Mahomes in recent memory. So I absolutely love this pick for Lad. Like it for me at the 206, as I think it's a pretty safe floor play. I don't know where the upside is maybe compared to some of these other guys, but I also think the floor is a lot higher. So feel pretty safe taking him here at the 206.
And with that said, 207, I'm on the clock and I am going to end up taking Blake Corum, running back out of Michigan. And I know you hate the Michigan guys, but he got round 3 draft capital, pick 91 to the Dallas Cowboys here. And one thing we need to know about Corum is that he is coming off of a down year. Obviously in 2022, he had a great season where he posted 1,500 total yards, but this tells me that Dallas has decided to move on from Tony Pollard. Now keep in mind, Pollard is playing on that franchise tag. Maybe they do give him an extension. I just don't know why you would spend day 2 draft capital on a running back if you decide to pay Tony Pollard a long-term contract. So with that being said, I do think that this means they decide to move on. They make Corum the quarterback. Maybe he's in a committee right away, but it does seem like he is going to be getting day one touches in 2023 right away. What those are, I don't know. How valuable they are, I don't know. But when you get a back that is going to see day one touches and has the talent that Blake Corum has, I think you need to be drafting them no matter what. And with that being said, getting him at the 207 is probably a value where he's being drafted at in this mock.
Yeah, I think it would be fun to see a backfield of Blake Corum and Deuce Vaughn to see like that size, see if they did anything crazy with it. But yeah, I can't blame you. Take Dallas Cowboys, known for running backs, getting Blake Corum in the round 3. Sounds great. At the 208, I will be going with Xavier Legette out of South Carolina. Gets drafted in round 1, pick 32. So last pick of the first round to the Philadelphia Eagles. And now, is this the best landing spot for Xavier? Probably not if you're going to be stuck behind AJ Brown. Devontae Smith, still got Dallas Goedert there. But my thing is, when you get at the 208 and you're able to draft a wide receiver that was given round 1 draft capital in this class where we're saying it's like 10 deep at the wide receiver position. And of course, I've already taken 2 wide receivers that were drafted in the second. But I think when you're able to get that at the back end of the second, it's just definitely worth the risk. And especially landing on a team like the Philadelphia Eagles. Really, it's been a senior breakout for my man Xavier this year. So I think that's my only worry compared to some of these other, juniors that are coming out. I typically like to draft a junior wide receiver more than drafting someone that it took them 4 years before it finally clicked for him. But I'll take Xavier here at the 208. I'll risk it for the biscuit.
I agree. The ceiling's kind of capped there where he's at in Philly, but it's hard to argue with some of the talent, but it is a good situation. I just think the ceiling is probably a little capped for Xavier. With that being said, here at the 209, I am going to be drafting TreVeyon Sanders, tight end out of Texas, and this is my second tight end that I drafted. He got round 2, pick 38 capital in this one, and I'm still kind of unsure how I feel about TreVeyon as a prospect. I think when you look at how he was coming into college, a 5-star recruit, 99th percentile scouting grade, 90th percentile speed score, and an 88th percentile 40-yard dash, all at 6'4", 250 pounds. This guy is a physical specimen. The athleticism is off the chart. That's kind of what I am going to be gambling with this pick. Again, this is a tight end premium format. He gets that second round draft capital. So I do think that it is very likely that they would be making this pick to have him take over from Logan Thomas, who we have seen have fantasy relevance in this offense. And keep in mind, this is an offense that is passing the football more than anybody else in the NFL at the moment. So I'll take TreVeyon Sanders, bet on the talent, bet on the athleticism, and see what happens at that tight end position.
When you're able to get one of those high upside tight ends in the second round, like TreVeyon, I absolutely love that pick, Andrew, for you. And then at the 210, I will be going with Adonai Mitchell out of the University of Texas, the transfer from Georgia this year to go play with Quinn Ewers. And yes, only a 10% target share this year, 51 receptions out of the 13 games, but 10 total touchdowns. I think that was the most impressive stat. And also landing in the second round to this New Orleans Saints team, kind of slotting in as the clear wide receiver to Chris Olave. Michael Thomas, we're assuming, is done with the New Orleans Saints after this year. You got Rashid Shaheed, but that's been more of a long shot than anything else. I know they drafted A.T. Perry this year super late, but I think when you're able to get Adonai Mitchell, who was drafted in the second round for the New Orleans Saints, absolutely love that pick. So I'll be taking him at the back end of the second.
Absolutely. And kind of talking about what I was saying with Sanders, betting on the athleticism, betting on the physicals, I'm going to be doing that again here. At the 211, I'm going to take Johnny Wilson, wide receiver out of Florida State. Yes, you're reading that correctly. He's 6'7", 237 pounds. I think this size is going to make him very, very unique as a prospect in this class. Now, he isn't overly quick, nor is he really polished as a wide receiver. I think that there is a chance that there could be a position change at the NFL level. Maybe he ends up playing some tight end. I don't know. I'm getting some flashbacks from some recent prospects where that could be a situation for Johnny Wilson. But you look at where he's went in this mock draft. He gets added to the New England Patriots. Again, like I said, round 3 draft capital. I don't know, man. There's just not a lot of weapons there in New England. And they did draft Drake Maye earlier in this mock. So you give Maye this big, unique weapon in Johnny Wilson. And I think I'm just, again, betting on the physicals, betting on the athleticism. And I don't know how much I want to bet on Bill Belichick being able to develop young, raw talent, but it's a bet that I'm going to make, especially this late in the second round. It's not very often you're going to find receivers or tight ends or whatever this guy ends up being at this point in the draft that are this talented.
Yeah, Johnny just reminds me of a bigger Chase Claypool. And I think that is something that when you're able to get that in the back end of the second, super impressive. And then at rounding out this mock draft at the 212, I will be going with Malachi Corley out of Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Gets drafted to the Jacksonville Jaguars in round 2, pick 59. And this is my thing. I saw Malachi personally tear up my Buckeyes, which was so sad to see. I mean, we won, which is great, but absolutely tore us up. And the thing is, I think with his type of profile, I call him an alpha beta, where he's a beta type wide receiver. He's not tall enough, doesn't have those elite level traits. But after what we saw this season with Tank Dell and what we're even seeing when we're talking about like someone like a Lad earlier in the second round, I think some of these wide receivers that might not have been given the same type of consideration, been pushed down the boards in previous seasons, are going to be drafted highly where they should be going just because of their playmaking, because how teams are learning how to use these type of athletes. And so, of course, getting drafted to Jacksonville is going to be like the wide receiver 3 on the team behind Calvin Ridley, behind Christian Kirk. But the thing, like we were saying, Calvin Ridley is going to be 30 years old this next season. So that decline is about to happen. They still have Evan Ingram. They still have Travis Etienne. So they do have a bunch of pass options in this offense. But with Jacksonville, we have Trevor Lawrence, who is going to be a top 7 dynasty quarterback for us. So I absolutely love the long-term projection for Malachi Corley at the back end of the second round.
Absolutely. And like you said, I don't know how much opportunity is going to present itself day one, but it is a good offense and it's a good team to be tied to, I think, for the future of Malachi. So with that being said, Caleb, that is going to conclude the very first 2024 rookie mock draft of the season. Like we've said at the beginning of this video, it is that time of year. So this is the first of probably dozens and dozens of rookie mocks that we're going to be doing throughout the offseason. I'm very happy that you could join me on the first one. Caleb, where can they find you at? Because I know you're going to be making Dynasty content throughout the offseason as well.
Yeah, of course. You can go find me at Caleb Nemi on YouTube and also on Twitter, but also go sub right now if you haven't already subbed to Andrew over here at the League FFB, trying to get him to 1K subs. Come join the family over here at the League FFB.
Absolutely, guys. And with that being said, if you liked this content, you feel like there was some actionable advice in there, or just got you familiar with some of these prospects, go ahead and hit that like button. It is the best free way to show our channel some support. It also lets us know that you guys enjoy this type of content. That way we know which type of content we should be making for you in the future. So hit that like button if you haven't already. Like Caleb said, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the notification bell. That way you never miss a new video when it comes out. And last but not least, make sure you are joining our free Discord. It is going to be linked in the description. It is free for our first year of content. After the first year, it will not be free anymore. So get in while it's free and you will be grandfathered into that free price. So it is linked in the description. Like I said, free to join, no risk in doing that. Now, with all that being said, we will see you guys on our next video. But until then, peace out.